I want to know personally why somebody put 9 bullets in my father.
It was a mad period, but then there were many mad periods in those dark days of the Troubles.
It just definitely reeks of, of collusion of some description at a high level.
As long as it remains unsolved, it's still an open wound.
It's 20 years on, yes, but it's not 20 years on for us. It's a blink of an eye.
The beginning of 1992 was an ugly reminder of some of the worst days of the conflict. And the IRA bomb attack at Teeban and then the Loyalist shootings at a bookmaker's shop on the Ormer Road became part of a bloody narrative and a rising body count. In the explosion and the gunfire, 13 people were dead, and the headlines screamed security crisis.
We are not slipping into Armageddon. We have a very, very serious situation. It's been serious for some time. It might get slightly more serious.
In the different war games of this place, one set of killings would often read into another. And what happened here 20 years ago was no different. The UDA used the slaughter of an IRA attack to try to justify these shootings, ending a statement with the words, "Remember Teeban."
That was like a knife through the heart.
This retired Presbyterian minister buried one of the dead of the Teeban bomb and knows many of the bereaved families.
Those families had gone through an absolute nightmare. There was the horror of what actually happened on the Ormer Road, but then to link it with Teeban, that was a slap in the face.
Well, the words used by the UDA after the bookmaker shooting was "Remember Teeban."
Yep.
One set of killings playing into another.
Yep, and in the minds of the terrorists, or in the minds of the loyalists at that particular time was, well, what's good for the goose? You know, it's one justified the other. The innocent people suffer. So if they're going to go for numbers, either side is going to go for numbers, innocent people usually suffer.
Do you think the people in the bookmakers were innocent?
Well, of course.
Just a few weeks ago, on the 20th anniversary of the bomb, the Teeban families remembered their dead, and the Reverend Smith was with them.
The pain's still there, and the frustration's still there, that the questions remain: why was the van on the road unprotected, on that road unprotected? Who was responsible, in terms of the fact that nobody has been brought to justice because of it, and in all likelihood no one probably ever will be.
And this Sunday it's the turn of the Ormo families to remember and to ask their questions.
I know a lot of innocent people died in the Troubles, yes, but innocent 16-year-old wee lad cut down, and for, at the end of the day, nothing. Just for somebody to
basically shot for his religion. If you want to look at it, that's basically what it was about. It was just about religion.
I was 14 when I lost my daddy.
Yes.
I had that opportunity took away from me.
Yes.
You know, I have a 14-year-old daughter now, and I've went through life without him for what?
Of course.
For what reason? Because he went to the bookies for a bet.
Maybe it will take 20 years, but hopefully it does come out in the end, the truth.
In the gun attack, this man was shot 4 times and lay among the dead and the dying. And inside this report, compiled by the support group Relatives for Justice, you find the jigsaw pieces that the families believe make a picture of collusion. And you also find their questions.
There's obviously questions around who armed the loyalists, who allowed it to happen, who decided that individuals would never be prosecuted, who decided that individuals would never be arrested.
In relation to the firearms and the weaponry used in the killings, as we understand it, there were 2 weapons used in the atrocity. One is a weapon that purportedly came from what is known as the South African consignment, circa late 80s, early 90s. And there are very serious concerns about the history of that weapon and equally so when we come to examine the other weapon, a 9mm Browning. That weapon in particular has a very sinister history, coming as it did, allegedly, linked to a series of incidents, including having been in the possession of the security forces at one stage, and then remarkably released back out into the paramilitary community, and then later, very, very sadly, used in the atrocity.
And the rifle used, it was later destroyed or disposed, is that right?
Remarkably, the weapon that was also used was a VZ-58 weapon, and that weapon 2 years later was destroyed by the police. To date, we don't know why.
Loyalists were arrested, charged and convicted, probably in their hundreds over the course of 40 years. The people who armed, controlled and directed the Loyalists had never spent one day in jail. And the gun that was used to murder 5 people at Sean Green's Bookmakers was handed to Loyalists by the RUC, and I think someone needs to be held to account for that.
The extent and web of collusion is everywhere in this case, and the families demand answers. And the sooner people across this society stand together and say, we want the answers of people in the grey suits, not loyalists in the dock in Belfast or Republicans being hounded out in East Tyrone, the people in grey suits in Whitehall and Downing Street in London and who were based at Stormont Castle need to provide the answers to this community in relation to their role in the dirty war where they decided who lived and who died.
So on the Ormeau Road, the focus is not on the Loyalists or on prosecutions, but more about the hidden story and those many unanswered questions on collusion. In Teeban, 20 years on, there is a different focus and a hope still that someone will be convicted.
Ideally, folk would like some at least of the perpetrators to be convicted. I know with various political agreements that have been made over the years, they wouldn't serve much time in prison, if any time. But if at least somebody was convicted, that's an ideal scenario.
That's unlikely.
It's unlikely. It's very unlikely. And the longer time passes, the more unlikely it becomes.
Back in 1992, Jackie MacDonald was in jail, looking from the inside out on what was happening in those mad weeks of January and February. But he believes the escalating violence and body count helped quicken the pace of the peace process.
This took it to a new level. And it actually brought about, it sped up the whole process of the peace process, if you like, because people were saying, hold on, it's different killing 1 or 2, but you start killing them in half dozens here, we've got a problem.
The body count change thing?
Yeah, exactly.
In all the words we hear, we're being told that these attacks 20 years ago are still an open wound. Mass killings that have devastated families and left them with questions that may never be answered.
If there had been a war between loyalism and republicanism, I would rather have seen them taking the war to each other and not the communities. But that's where it took everybody.
Is it too hard to say sorry?
I can't say sorry because I wasn't part of it.
The families want some sort of an apology. Similar to Savile, where David Cameron comes out and apologises for the actions of whether it's British military intelligence which is involved in the bookmakers as well, or special branch who handed over this weapon.
They want an apology at that highest level?
Yes.
I think the important thing is that folk have an opportunity to tell their story. I mean, in my view, victims have over the years been used, sometimes by politicians, sometimes by media people, or more regularly they've been ignored. But I think it's very important for folk to have the opportunity to tell their story.
Brian Rowan, UTV Live Tonight.